Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. A little cloudy today, a little foggy. Chance of rain all week this week. So it's just kind of one of those damp weeks, and that's okay. A little cooler than it's been the last couple of weeks, but it's that time of the year, you know, and the rain is good because we've got stuff planted and we want it to grow, and might as well take in as much rain as we can, because here in another couple of months we'll probably be complaining that we don't have enough. I want to continue a conversation I've been having on here for the last couple of days, and this has not been pre-planned. I haven't, I didn't come up with some kind of little mini series to talk about. It's just kind of the natural way things go. Most of you, if you haven't been paying attention, you should go back and watch the video I did yesterday and then the one the day before. In a lot of ways it was motivational, scripture added into it, of trying to help people realize that the thing that's going to fix all this, not the spiritual thing, not I'm not speaking specifically of kind of a coming back to the Father, repentance. That's definitely what's going to fix it. I'm talking about what you and I can do, to fix the problems that are happening. And the best thing that we can do is come together in unity, come together as a community, in teams, in tribe, and build that coalition, and realize that together we need the government, we need the system less and less and less. That is critical. And here's the problem. Not the problem with that, but the problem with me saying all that is so many people, they misinterpret. They think, well, he's focused on community. Well, what about defense? What about, us realizing that at some point that the only solution to protecting ourselves and to retaining that community is to go into combat mode, and to defend what we've built, to defend our homes, to defend our homesteads and our community, and whether it's a civil war or whether it's just expanding and increasing violence because of the amount of people that's coming across the border, and the deranged, mentally ill people that live in this country, and the evilness and all that kind of stuff, that it may get to the point that our only option to protect that and to retain that is to take up arms. And I want to make it very, very clear that those two trains of thoughts are not, they're not separate. They're not, complete opposites or anything. You need to do both, is what I'm saying. My opinion, though, is different than a lot of people. I spoke to it, and this is not being critical of anything or anybody, but I'm using this as an example, and it's a true story. A couple of years ago, I spoke to someone in southern Missouri. They're not near me, but they live in southern Missouri, and they are the leader of a constitutional militia. And we were talking about the comparison of what he's doing with that constitutional militia versus what I'm doing with community building. And he was saying how he struggles with getting people involved, with people to do anything. They want to attach themselves to it because it sounds good, right? It's something that they can say, well, I'm part of this, right? But when it came down to them actually coming out and doing training, different events that they set up, it was always like pulling teeth to get anyone to come. And I understand that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that what I do, where I put the primary focus on just the community building, is different in that respect. It's the same way a lot of times. Sometimes you get a lot of response, and sometimes not so much. So I was asking him, I said, well, do you do anything as a community? Do you come together as families? Does the wives and the children come together and they do dinners or, campouts or anything like that? And he said, no, not really. We want to get to that point, but we're not really doing that now. And I said then, and I'll say it again now, I believe that's the that's the thing. That's the thing that we're missing. There's been an explosion, for lack of better terms, online over the last few years, in a good way, of so many patriots realizing once again that the constitutional militia concept is valid. It's not extreme. It's not bad. It's not something to hide away from. It's not something to do in secrecy and darkness. It's something to be proud of, and that we should be training. We should be out there, developing these skills and rucking and doing all the different things that go along with that together. And that's a good thing. There's a pretty decent sized movement online of people that are pushing that. And I'm not in any way whatsoever discouraging that. I think that's all great. Everybody should do it. We should do it. But don't put the cart before the horse. We have to, and the reason why the last couple of videos I was focusing on community is because that's what happens first. I mean, first is the fixing of our own hearts, our own lives. And then it expands out into our families. That's why I keep telling you to get your houses in order. You expand it into your families, and you get your families fixed, and you get them working together and in unity and that cohesiveness, that bond in your family. And then you take that and you move beyond into the community, the people around you, your neighbors, your friends, whether it's an actual geographic community or if it's just a community of like-minded individuals. Regardless, I don't care. But that's where it goes. Then we take that existing tribe, community, mag, whatever, and we say, okay, this is special to us. How do we protect this? How do we keep this? And I believe very strongly that the motivation of the people involved in that will be much greater to protect it. And, in the last couple of days, I've had a lot of, not negative comments necessarily, but people that are like, well, this is all great, this community, this, finding your purpose, realizing that we're here for, we exist in this time for a purpose, and that for such a time as this, and all these kinds of things. But I'm at the point that it's lock and load time, and it's just, it's take this on head on. I don't disagree with that necessarily, but here's the problem. And I've had so many people over the last few years ask me, well, what's the point? Where is that point where it's 1776 again? Where is that point where we say, okay, enough is enough. That's it. You've crossed that last final line, and now there's no other option. That moment can only successfully come, or even have the hope of being successful, if we have a system to back that up. We have to have infrastructure to back that up. Our founding fathers of America, when they took on the British, when the colonists took on the British, and they took that stand and they said, all right, that's it, that's done. We've exhausted every other means of diplomacy and peace. Now it's time to face our wrath. They were only able to do that because they had their own supply chain, okay? They had their own communities. They had their own ways to support that movement of revolution. We don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have our own food supplies and our own fuel and our own ammunition and our own medical and all that. We're diverse, but we're displaced. Look at what happened with the trucker strike up in Canada. What was it, a year or two ago? A couple of years ago? It was shut down actually pretty quickly because those truckers, is great as what they were standing up for, and I'm not poo-pooing any of it, they were highly dependent upon the system that was being controlled by the people that they were protesting against. And so the people that they were protesting against shut down the system. They shut down their bank accounts. They canceled their, kicked out their, or canceled their mortgages or their rent or their utilities or their insurance or their licenses, whatever it was they did, they cut them off. They cut them off at the head. And so we have to realize that there can be no successful revolt against tyranny in this time or in our country if the people that are revolting are dependent upon those that are exerting tyranny over us. You can't, it's biting the hand that feeds you, and we can't do that. We have to be feeding ourselves. We have to find a different hand to feed us, and hopefully that hand that's feeding us is our own or our community. And so that's why I push so hard for this, because it's never going to happen in a successful way. You're not just going to get people just spontaneously standing up. It's not going to be like a TV show or something. You're not just going to show up in Washington, D.C. or your state capital and have a little rally and say, this is what we want, these are our demands, and then the government like, okay, we'll get. If it comes to that, it's going to be the worst, bloodiest, most horrible mess probably we've ever seen. And it's going to be long going, stretched out, and we have to be able to support that. And we can't. And so for those of you that are in that camp, that the only way to fix this is to just make that final stand, you're not necessarily wrong. But we can't get to that point if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not unified in communities, if we're not the communities, those communities that are unified are not supporting the people going out there standing up against this. Until we can get to that point, we're going to be stuck in where we're at right now, and that may just be what happens. It may just forever be that way. I don't know. But I'm telling you, if we don't start creating self-sufficient communities as much as possible, and it doesn't mean that you're like some kind of, off-grid hippie commune or something. I'm talking about areas where while the people may still be working, you're still paying their taxes and their insurance, their utilities and stuff. If they were cut off from all of that, they would be able to survive. That's what I mean, that they would be able to survive. Because if you make that final stand that many of you have talked about, if you stand up against tyranny, this tyranny that we're facing today, with all the technology and all the means to do extreme damage, and I'm not talking about violent damage, I'm talking about financial and social and psychological, all of that kind of stuff. If you stand up against this tyranny, you have to be able to do it outside of that system that the tyranny controls. And so that's why I believe it is so vital for us to be building self-sufficient communities that have the capability, they may not be doing it right now, but they have the capability of standing on their own, so that when the time comes that they may have to say, this is that final line, you've crossed it, and now there's no going back, then they're able to support that. Because if not, then there's no point. It will be a very short-lived revolution. So that's why we have to be self-sufficient. That's why we have to be coming together as families and communities. It also gives us something greater to fight for. We're not just fighting for our own freedom. We're fighting for our brothers and sisters, our family. And that gives us even more. We have to start doing this. It's not one option or the other. It's all one big thing, and we have to put it all together. Yes, some of you are hyper-focused on the guns and the combat and the training, and I'm not saying you're wrong. And then others are only focused on growing food. And you're like, I don't even own a gun. I'm out here producing food. Those two trains of thought, those two schools of thought, they need to come together. Okay, and they need to figure out a way to work together and to build a future together, because that's the only way that we're going to change this. It's not one or the other. We may not need that one. We may not need this one. We don't know, but we can't move forward in this pursuit of freedom, this pursuit of happiness, this pursuit of liberty, if we don't have a system that we have created that's in our own control that is backing it. We can't do it as long as the system, if you go back to Russia, anywhere in the world where the people have revolted against the tyranny, they were able to feed themselves, they were able to clothe themselves, they were able to take care of their wounded and stuff. Today it's different. We can't. Most people can't. You know, they're dependent upon this system to do that for them. You know, do you really think that you're going to, you know, be rebelling against the government, and then someone gets injured and you're going to run them down to the hospital and they're going to take care of them and they're going to go right back out on the field? It doesn't work that way, folks. It doesn't work that way. So we have to become as self-sufficient as possible within our communities, because it's time to get our houses in order and to prepare ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.